Takaru was a nameless office worker doomed to die in obscurity, until one glitch in his poor glasses threw him into another world that changed his fate upside down. The story opens with our boy Takaru, your typical wage slave, dragging his miserable body home after another soul-crushing day of office work. His life was so painfully boring that even the TV remote was probably more interesting than him. He sat down, turned on the TV, hoping for just a tiny spark of excitement. But instead of watching his favorite late-night show, his glasses suddenly glowed like a pair of cheap LED headlights. And bam! This broke office worker got isekai'd without warning. He found himself in a strange room, greeted by some shady old man casually offering him tea. This guy introduced himself as the solar system manager, like some cosmic landlord who ran the universe on weekends. To prove his power, the man conjured a mini planet on his fingertip and called it Matthias, flexing like it was nothing. Then he explained that the planet was a dead wasteland where nothing could survive. With a dramatic flick, he dropped water on it and declared that this tiny splash was the same effect Takaru would have when he entered the world of Matthias. Takaru just sat there, dumbfounded, realizing he'd somehow gone from spreadsheets to being told he'd influence planets. The manager didn't stop there. He dropped the bomb that Takaru was already dead and would lose his soul completely if he refused. Brutal news, but what choice did Takaru have? The manager sweetened the deal by granting him infinite mana. Yes, unlimited magic energy, like a walking cheat code. When asked if he wanted anything else, Takaru exposed his inner perv by requesting a harem. The manager raised an eyebrow but still threw in an overpowered search skill that let him find and sell valuable items. Not enough? Fine, here's a bottomless bag for loot and the ability to instantly speak the local language too. Basically, the guy was setting Takaru up with more perks than an overpaid streamer. But things started going south fast. Takaru's body began fading away like bad Wi-Fi, and even the cosmic manager looked worried, muttering that maybe he gave him too many buffs. Takaru's instincts screamed that this was the world's biggest scam, but it was too late. His vision went dark as his body disappeared. When he woke up, he wasn't in his apartment anymore. He was lying under a massive tree surrounded by lush forest with a gigantic ringed planet hanging in the sky above him like some wallpaper background. Takaru wandered until he stumbled across a nearby village, but the first thought that hit him was that he had no money. That's when he remembered his shiny new search ability. He raised his wand dramatically like he was about to pull off something epic, but nothing happened. Man stood there looking like a complete clown, waving a stick in the air like a budget street magician. In panic, he decided to draw the spell on the ground like a desperate caveman. Finally, the search activated, lighting up the area with the locations of several items. Excited, Takaru scanned one. Turns out it was a B-grade nightgrass, a plant valuable enough to make him cheer like he just won the lottery. But the joy didn't last because everything else he found was trash tier, all ranked E. Still, beggars can't be choosers. He kept gathering until he spotted a shiny rock that looked promising. Except when he scanned it, he discovered it wasn't a gem at all. It was monster poop. This was no ordinary poop though. It was ranked C, meaning in this world, even feces had more status than Takaru ever did back on Earth. He reluctantly bagged it, realizing that apparently his new life involved being a glorified poop collector. With a handful of herbs and premium dung stuffed in his bag, he made his way to the village gates. There, he was met by a yawning guard who barely looked alive. The man squinted at Takaru's tall figure and asked if he was a knight. Takaru, with his weak-ass gatherer vibes, had no choice but to admit the truth. Nope. Not a knight, just the poor fool trying to make a living picking grass and monster shit. Takaru quickly explained to the guard that he wasn't a knight, just a gatherer with more ambition than brains. The guard, a yawning man who introduced himself as Captain Marlowe of the village defense, didn't seem impressed, but still opened the gate. Marlowe told him the village had a general store that would buy his herbs. Takaru entered nervously, feeling the heat of all the stares aimed at him like he was some circus clown wandering into town. Inside the shop, the old storekeeper asked if Takaru needed something. Takaru, trying to act confident, pulled out his prized loot, the shiny monster poop. Instead of laughing him out of the shop, the man's eyes lit up like he'd just seen treasure. He announced that the poop was high quality and worth a gold coin. Takaru almost passed out at the thought that literal shit was worth more than his entire paycheck back in Japan. The storekeeper then explained that a single gold coin was enough to cover 2 nights at an inn, since one night only cost 500 raves. Takaru accepted instantly, realizing he had just struck gold by selling dung. Things got even weirder when the shopkeeper rubbed the shiny poop on his face like it was some rare skincare product. Takaru was horrified, but he held his tongue. The old man demanded to see the rest of his materials, and when Takaru handed over his herbs, the man looked at him with genuine respect. He asked why someone with such rare items was selling them in a small village. Takaru, trying to act slick, lied that he was a traveling merchant, even though his face screamed rookie. The shopkeeper then decided to test him further, offering a serious request. He wanted Takaru to bring back rare mithril ore from the eastern mountain. Takaru agreed, asking for a local map. The man nodded and, to seal the deal, handed him 360,000 raves for his haul. Takaru's eyes almost popped out of his skull. This guy went from broke gatherer to walking bank account in one afternoon, but the shopkeeper warned him that dangerous monsters roamed near the mountain, making it clear this job wasn't just a picnic. Flush with cash, Takaru rented a room at the inn. An employee came in with a tub of hot water, telling him he could clean himself with it. Takaru asked about a full bath, only to learn that luxury was reserved for nobility. The girl added that a water magician could grant him one too. Takaru, itching to try magic himself, handed her some extra coins to enjoy and got to work. He began chanting words until the simple word clean caused a gush of water to spray him down, scrubbing every inch of his body. The inn girl outside blushed at the strange, euphoric noises he made during his self-bath, probably thinking he was doing something else. Takaru, meanwhile, was thrilled to finally be clean, but frustrated that he couldn't sink into a warm bath like a proper king. The next morning, he set out again, gathering herbs as usual, until he noticed a spade symbol carved into the ground. Curious, he followed it and stumbled upon a rotten skeleton still wearing battle gear. The sight knocked him back in shock. He picked up an amulet and found a letter inside, revealing that the poor adventurer had been searching for money to heal his sick father, but his sister had begged him to return home. Takaru felt pity for the fallen man, so he buried him and offered prayers, showing rare respect instead of his usual clown energy. Afterward, he set up camp, placing a protective barrier around himself and lighting a fire with some fuel. He threw water, vegetables, and meat into a pot, whipping up a stew like some fantasy world Gordon Ramsay. When it was ready, he tasted it and nearly cried at how delicious it was, praising the Isekai spices that made the food better than anything he'd eaten in his past life. Once full, Takaru moved on into the white forest of ancient dragons. He knew the place was crawling with deadly monsters, so he lit up the area with a spell. The glowing light exposed more herbs, which only disappointed him since he was hunting for ore. Still, he was relieved no monsters had shown up yet. Half joking to himself, Takaru thought maybe his stinky body odor was keeping them away, which gave him enough confidence to start skipping around like a fool. He eventually spotted light at the end of the forest and dashed toward it, desperate to escape. Takaru's adventure took another nosedive, literally. Sprinting blindly through the forest like a headless chicken, he ran straight into a massive chasm and plummeted down the pit. Panic kicked in and he started chanting every random spell he could think of, basically reciting the whole magical dictionary midair. By some miracle, he finally triggered a flight spell. A golden glow wrapped around his body and slowed his fall, lowering him to the ground like some cheap knockoff angel. Relieved that he wasn't dragon food yet, Takaru noticed glowing symbols for ores scattered around the cavern walls. His eyes lit up like a broke miner who just saw a paycheck. He whipped out a hammer and started swinging like he was playing Minecraft in real life. But after all that effort, the best he could manage was plain silver ore, not the mithril he needed. He tried his search spell again and detected hidden ore nearby. That's when the ground began to shake like an earthquake. Any normal human would have left immediately, but Takaru? Nope. His greed said, keep digging. He blasted the rock open with a fireball and uncovered tiny fragments of mithril. Instead of being grateful, he sulked like a spoiled brat because the amount was small. Ignoring the tremors, he pushed deeper into the cave. That's when he stumbled on a pristine underground lake that shimmered with unnatural light. Scanning it revealed SS-ranked magic elemental water, the kind of treasure worth a kingdom. Takaru nearly fainted with excitement, but the scan also revealed a nasty detail. This wasn't just any water, it belonged to an ancient dragon's nest. Before his brain could process, a deep voice echoed through the cavern, demanding the intruder reveal himself. And what did Takaru do? He ignored it, still scheming about how to collect the water. This dumbass even tried drinking it like it was bottled spring water. The lake erupted and out rose a massive dragon, furious at being treated like background scenery. It ordered Takaru to stop ignoring it, but instead of screaming or running, he just stood there like a man who'd accepted death a long time ago. The dragon noticed his weird calmness, and Takaru mumbled an apology for barging into the lair. When the beast inspected his body, Takaru felt awkward, like he was on a very invasive TSA check. But instead of killing him, the dragon respected his courage and asked his identity. Takaru introduced himself as a human, shocking the creature when it sensed his enormous mana. The dragon revealed that Takaru's ridiculous magic reserves had literally woken him up. Only then did Takaru realize he was dealing with a legendary ancient beast. The dragon introduced himself as Valdius, though Takaru casually shortened it to Val like they were drinking buddies. Val didn't mind. Instead, he asked Takaru for a favor, to use his power to awaken his dormant children. Takaru was stunned, but Val explained that magic in the lair had stagnated. To sweeten the deal, he conjured a massive cluster of pure mithril ore as payment. Valdius then summoned a huge black egg from the water. Takaru pressed it to his ear and heard the faint heartbeat of a baby dragon inside. Curious how to awaken it, he listened as Val instructed him to pour mana into the egg, just like casting a light spell. Takaru channeled energy and heated the egg, but suddenly, it pulled all of his mana like a vacuum cleaner. A powerful aura erupted as Val started laughing like a Saturday morning cartoon villain. Takaru realized too late he had been scammed by a shady old lizard. His body grew weak, his vision blurred, and he felt himself sinking into darkness. In that dreamlike state, a mysterious figure appeared, scolding him for being such a reckless idiot. The man warned that Takaru should have run from the dragon instead of playing hero. He revealed that he had been watching Planet Mattias for millennia, and Takaru had already thrown the world into chaos on just his second day there. He also warned that Takaru's stupidity might weaken the space manager's protection. And as if to rub it in, he reminded him of the harem request, saying, maybe the fool deserves some trouble after all. And with that, Takaru slipped further into the void, completely unaware of the chaos waiting when he woke up. Before he could demand an explanation, the dream shattered, and he jolted awake in the real world. The first thing he heard in the pitch-black cave was a squeaky, high-pitched voice calling out. At first, he thought Valdius was pulling a prank with some bad ventriloquism. Suspicious, Takaru cast a light spell to reveal the truth. But instead of Val's smug dragon face, he was greeted by a tiny hatchling squealing at him. The baby dragon immediately pounced onto his face, treating him like a climbing toy. Takaru pried the little beast off, utterly confused about how he ended up babysitting so soon. That's when Valdius's voice echoed through the cave, casually asking him to give the newborn a name. Takaru was stunned that an ancient dragon was entrusting him with such an honor. Valdius clarified that the child already had a formal dragon name, but he wanted Takaru to give it a common name for the outside world. Takaru stood there, scratching his head like a clueless dad who forgot his kid's birthday. After racking his empty brain, he landed on the most uninspired idea possible, naming the dragon B simply because it was black. Real creative, Takaru. But surprisingly, the baby loved it, happily licking his face like an overexcited puppy. Valdius announced the dragon's full, intimidating title, Black Nobby Valdius, and then praised Takaru for coming up with a nickname so simple it actually worked. To make things official, he allowed Little B to accompany Takaru on his travels. Takaru hesitated, reminding Val that he really should be raising his newborn instead of dumping it on some random human gatherer. But Valdius shrugged it off, saying Takaru was stronger than him, which honestly sounded more like an excuse to skip parenting duties. Before leaving, Val cast a beam of light over Takaru's bag, imbuing it with some unknown magic, then sank back into the depths of the water. Meanwhile, B kept slobbering all over Takaru's face, acting like he had just found his new best friend. Valdius's voice echoed a final farewell before disappearing completely. Left alone, Takaru sat in silence, still shocked that he had somehow become the foster parent of a baby dragon. Trying to accept the chaos, he looked at the little beast clinging to him and asked if it was ready for their upcoming journey. B squealed in delight, wagging his tail and agreeing like a happy toddler. But before anything else, Takaru decided to wash its filthy, stinking body. He wasn't about to spend the rest of his new life smelling dragon baby funk. And so, the strangest partnership in the world began, with Takaru, the broke gatherer, and his slobbery new sidekick, B. That's the end of episode 1. If you watched all the way through, I have to tell you this, you're built different, man. So, let's confuse our fake fans. Comment C-rank poop down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your favorite anime. You might see it roasted in the next video.